Lure One Delta One here. Well, we are on here another vlog until something breaks or something. Supposedly, if everything goes the way it's supposed to and I don't have to work this weekend, I'll be doing a service on the motorcycle. I'll be changing the oil on the motorcycle, and I'll be changing the coolant in the motorcycle. If things go the way they should. If not, I will end up, okay, it's on my screen. Okay. I'm seeing a little line across the screen. I'm thinking that my glass on my phone is cracked, but it's not. But I was asked to elaborate on a topic that one of my subscribers saw on YouTube on a recent video on one of their favorite YouTubers. And it literally revolves around, I really don't want to go this way because it's just going to have light in my eye. It literally revolves around putting your car in park. And literally that's all it is. I think I watched the video as well. I believe the video was saying putting your car in park without using the parking brake, or using a parking brake improperly, will cause damage to your transmission, is what it was. Yes, it does. This is what a lot of people don't understand. Your parking brake, every car has a parking brake. Some people call them emergency brakes, but they are essentially your parking brake. They're your parking brake. They're designed specifically to park the car. Now, your car, putting it in park, is a transmission deal. Your gear shift or your button, or whichever you have, in my case, the Ram has a knob. Putting it in park puts the computer, or puts a mechanical parking paw, which is, if you've ever seen what a parking paw was, you would be more reluctant to use your parking brake. It is not hard to overcome the parking paw on a vehicle, which is one of the reasons why it's really important to use your parking brake. But essentially, when you put your car in park, that's just a mechanical parking mechanism for your transmission. That's not stopping the car. That's your car's transmission putting itself in park. It's no different than putting it in reverse or drive. You're controlling the transmission. Now, because your car is, driven through the transmission, putting the transmission in park stops the car from rolling. However, this puts tremendous strain on your transmission, which is why you're supposed to use the parking brake when you actually park the car. And after watching the video, I completely and utterly agree with it on the points that were made. Because right now, I just put in park and I put the handbrake on. Well, the parking brake on. Now, this is the improper way of doing it. The proper way of doing it is stopping the car, foot on the brake, putting the parking brake on, and then turning the car off after you put it in park, of course. This is because your car will be held if you keep good maintenance on your brakes. If you put your car into park after you put your handbrake on, or your parking brake on, whichever one you like to call it, once you do that, the car is theoretically supposed to stay in that position on that rotation of that pin or that cog. That way, when you put in park, the parking paw will go into place like it's supposed to. But the stress of the transmission will not be on that parking paw. It'll actually be, to put it in layman's term, it'll be sitting in limbo. It won't actually be putting stress on that parking paw, keeping it from moving. So instead of your parking paw, you putting your car into park and then getting off the brake, and then the car rolls backwards or forwards, and that parking paw is what's keeping it from rotating. You got all that strain on that parking paw. That's why if you ever notice that if you park on a hill or anything and you put your car into park without the parking brake first, and you go and try to get it out of gear, it struggles to get out of gear. It's a lot harder to do. And then when it does go, it releases and you bounce forward or you bounce back. Well, I guess the correct term, you jerk forward or you jerk back depending on what gear you're going in. And that's because all of that strain and tension you put on the transmission by doing that. But if you actually stop the car, put the handbrake on, the handbrake is now, or the parking brake, is now keeping the car in position, not the transmission. The parking brake is. And when you put your parking brake on, it keeps that transmission where it is while the car is running. It now puts the park in the transmission. When you put it in park, that parking paw now goes into one of the cogs on the transmission to engage the transmission, well, to stop it from moving. It's now in layman's term for people that don't understand mechanics. It's in limbo. It's not actually being pushed against by forward or reverse motion, and it's not exactly free floating in there. Of course, eventually at some point, depending on how much brake pressure you put on it, it could slightly roll, very minor, slightly roll towards that transmission, but it won't be a lot of stress on that parking paw. So yes, to you who gave me that question, yes, I completely and utterly agree with that assessment. It does wear it doesn't actually wear the trans. I think that's probably why he said in that video, yes and no, because no, it doesn't actually wear the transmission itself out, but it does wear out a particular component in the transmission that you do not want to fail, and that is your parking paw. I'll put it this way. If I can't remember the YouTuber's name off the top of my head now. I can't remember. But there's lots of videos on YouTube of people going down the road and putting their car into park. Cars before electronic stupid, that's actually what we call them, electronic stupid locks, that when you put it in the park, it actually goes in the park. You put it in the park, you'll hear that parking paw grind against that cog as it's going around in circles, just tearing it up. They are designed to be sturdy, but too many of those will break that parking paw. A really good one will definitely break it. It'll either break it off of its housing or it'll break the tip off of it and it won't park anymore. And this is the same thing as going. There's a reason why, essentially, even if you drive an automatic, you should still be parking your car like it was a manual transmission. In a manual transmission, when you park a car, those that don't know what the hell a manual transmission is, that's when you shift the gears on your own with an actual handle that is usually located towards the center of the vehicle. For those that you don't know, no, not the one that goes park, reverse, neutral, and drive. It's one that actually reads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's an R on it for reverse. Those vehicles, when they park them, anyone that drives a manual transmission will tell you that you have to put the parking brake on and put it into gear. Well, essentially, you don't have to put it in gear, but if you value your car, you will put it into gear. Some people don't have a parking brake, like particularly in the northern states or the Rust Belt. Their parking brakes will break because, one, a lot of people don't use them like they're supposed to, and they will actually put their car into gear. Putting it in gear is the same thing that you're doing when you put it in park, except there's a mechanical lever that stops it from rolling, whereas in a manual transmission, all you've done is shifted that gear or move move those gears. So really the weight of the car is what's keeping it there. So if you have it into gear, you can actually push a car while it's in a gear and it's in, with its parking brake disengaged. You can actually do that in a manual transmission car, which is one of the reasons why you put the parking brake on. But to answer your question, yes, I do agree with that assessment. It is really important. In places where it's flat, I still do. and I live in a flat location. I live in Mississippi. So we have bukus upon bukus of flat areas. So I really, like I said, I put my parking brake on all the time. It's on right now. And I just don't believe in parking without the parking brake on. I really don't. I guess really when you are mechanically inclined, you know how this stuff works. It keeps you up at night. Yeah. So I'm going to go in, freshen up, and hit the gym. Peace.